Welcome to Curious Conversations about Brain Change, where we have open conversations about brain change and challenging situations. Please like, subscribe, and share this out to help spread Teepa all over the world.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Curious Conversations. I'm Teepa Snow, and with me, we have a variety of support. I have Beth Nolan, who does a lot of international work, as well as research and statewide initiatives. I have Cheryl Buchholz, who is up in Canada and does a lot of support work with families, but also helps us with our Care Partner Support Series, champion courses, certifications, and more. And I have Rachel Volker, who is in Oklahoma. And Rachel is primarily our primary contact with people living with dementia who want to participate and have a role or get support. So Rachel does a lot of that. And Matthew, who is a mystery man, is the one who's coordinating and making sure we are live streaming on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and on Facebook. Now, hablar español. If you speak Spanish, I don't. No, that's the wrong whole thing. Anyway, we are making this available on our LinkedIn. LinkedIn? No, what did he say? YouTube channel. Available on our YouTube channel with subtitles or closed caption in Spanish if you are a Spanish speaker. And Matthew is putting something in chat in Spanish since I can't speak it. Although I was just in Chile and did a whole day program with the support and wonderful abilities of two translators and Alejandro, who on our team is a great translator. And we do have other Spanish speakers on our team. So if you're looking for support, looking for a consult, we do have people who speak Spanish. It's just not me. I don't think it's Beth. No, it's not Cheryl. Rachel? Nope. So hopefully you'll have to check in with us because it isn't us. Our topic for tonight is living on your own, living alone, and living with dementia. And it turns out people do that, and they do it a long time, and they do it quite well, or they can do it quite poorly. And some of it will depend on the type and kinds of support they put in place for themselves. But a big chunk really depends on a really specific skill. And it's one that I can't control whether I have or not, but it will make all the difference in the world. And it's called, if I do not have it, anosognosia. If I do have it, I have self-awareness. And my self-awareness is such that I know accurately when I'm good at doing something and when I need help. And if I can get really good at that, I can live on my own a really long time and really well, because I can recognize when I need support and what support I do need. And I'm right about it. And so I don't overuse, but I don't underutilize support and help. But if I'm living with anosognosia, I can't be self-aware. I think I'm fine when I'm not fine. I think I need help. Maybe I don't need help. But when I have that condition as part of my dementia, living alone will be dangerous. At first, it'll just be risky, but then it actually becomes dangerous because I think I'm fine when I'm not fine. So I'm going to ask my team to identify at least, let's say, 5 situations that go from risky to dangerous if I think I'm fine and I'm not fine and I'm living on my own. Just come up with, and I haven't said anything ahead of time, so they're working cold here. What are at least 5 situations you can think of, and any of you out there, if you're thinking as well, what are things that could happen that go from being risky to being dangerous when I don't have awareness that I'm having trouble doing something? I think I'm fine. So
my first one might be driving.
Driving. Yeah. So what do you mean, Cheryl?
I can drive. I've been driving for 50 some odd years now. I'm a good driver.
Yeah. So why would we think that becomes risky and then dangerous?
So risky when risky.
So I'm being a little silly because the problem is Cheryl thinks she's fine driving, but the evidence on her car, the evidence of her behaviors when she's driving, she's just showing that she doesn't have the skill she used to have, but she thinks she does. So she will either try to explain away what's happened, like, well, the person parked too close to my car. Well, that could have happened to anybody. Or she may not be safe driving, not know she's not safe driving, and end up hurting herself or hurting someone else. And the most common turn that people make, and it is one of the very first turns, but it's very dangerous, is left-hand turn across an intersection with oncoming traffic with no turn light. So there's not a hard turn light. You have to make a judgment call about when to do the turn. And the two risks are getting T-boned as you make the turn because I misjudge my timing or my distance and the distance of the car, or I hit a pedestrian in the crosswalk because I'm not looking at what's happening over there. I'm worried about what's happening out here. So that's an example of going from risky to dangerous. So driving could be one. Rachel, what's yours? What's something that came up for you when I said what's something that could go risky to dangerous living on your own with anosognosia?
I'm thinking about eating and drinking.
Tell me more. That's a good one.
I was involved in a situation where somebody wasn't really eating, and I think she basically starved.
Yeah. So I think I've eaten. I really have. And with my ano said, no, yeah, I can't tell the difference between whether I ate today, I ate yesterday, I didn't eat at all. And I think I'm eating. I think I'm regularly eating. Unfortunately, between my anosognosia and my hippocampal damage and the damage of the wiring between my body and my brain, I'm not getting messages from my stomach, messages from my systems that say, you're hungry. That's what you are. You're hungry. And so I'm not taking in nourishment, but I think I am because I always have breakfast, I always have lunch, I have dinner. I already did that. And so this phrase, I already did that to myself. Of course I did. Why wouldn't I? Because I always do. And I can't tell the difference between what I've done and what I have not done. So, Beth, what about you?
Well, I'm going to give two out here. Throwing out housekeeping as potentially the one that could be dangerous, but by comparison, the one that just feels really, really risky is managing finances. Ooh.
So tell me more about managing finances. Go ahead and give us a little more detail on that.
So managing finances are anything from literally doing your household expenses and maybe, spending a little bit more recklessly. But where it starts to feel like it's even more risky is when I start engaging in behavior that gives away a whole lot of money repeatedly. Maybe I keep getting calls from a lot of charities and I'm just giving $1,000 here and there, and suddenly my life savings is gone. It's an interesting one that is it feels incredibly dangerous. But the reality is it's like really just really, really risky. Versus by comparison, housekeeping. I can actually engage in behavior with housekeeping, with mixing different chemicals together that shouldn't be mixed, that go from really quite risky to actively really dangerous faster, potentially. So by comparison, the finances is hard, but is it actually danger to life and limb today?
So, well, it depends on how you look at it, because if I don't pay my bills and they turn the heat off, they turn the lights out, or I trust someone to come and do something in my house and they are not a good person, and they find out I have some money, and then they come back and they take advantage of that, and maybe take advantage of me because I don't have a risk behavior that I should have a risk behavior for, and I just don't. Okay. Cheryl, what else you got?
I have medications on my mind right now because I have seen that happen, and it's can be a really from risky to very dangerous situation.
Okay. So if I think I can manage my med and I'm starting to have trouble managing my meds, what could end up happening is I could double dip, I could skip, I could triple dip. I might actually be taking a medication I'm not supposed to be taking anymore. I might take triple something because I thought the doctor told me to take a pill and a half, and what he said is half a pill. And I'm running into trouble because I think I'm fine. I think I'm not having trouble. And I might think I'm fine managing my insulin. I might think I'm fine managing many things. And so that idea of my inability to be accurate. If I'm accurate, then things change dramatically. Rachel, have you got another one that you're thinking of that goes from sort of risky to dangerous?
I don't know if this qualifies as dangerous, but well, actually, a couple that come to mind. But one is taking care of the house, taking care of the pets, taking care of, like, the washer and dryer don't work. What happened to laundry? This sink faucet is leaking. The gas and electric get turned off. All those are the grass, taking care of the grass.
So, home maintenance, yard maintenance, things that we take for granted, like starting up the lawnmower, like checking the blade, like trimming the hedge with electric clippers, maybe putting gasoline in something. Only it has to be, in some places like here, we have to cut back trees that go down. So we have a chainsaw, and I have an electric chainsaw. My husband has two gas chainsaws, but you have to know that you have to mix oil with gas. Now, it's just risky if you don't put the oil in with the gas for the chainsaw. It doesn't work well and you destroy your chainsaw. But if you put it in hot and you don't think about it, or you put away the lawnmower hot into the storage unit and it has some leaf matter on it. I mean, these are things where you could start fires. And because I've never had a problem like that, I don't think about it. And because I have not used the fire extinguisher in a long time, but I think I know how to use a fire extinguisher, what could happen when I go to try to do the fire extinguisher? I have no idea how to do a fire extinguisher. I think I do, but then I can't remember what's the first step. I don't know. I just don't know. Shoot. Um, Son of a gun. All right, Beth, what have you got?
So the things that come to mind now start to get a little bit more clear and more obvious. I think we were starting pretty high up and a little earlier in the disease process, but now the thing that comes to mind is just hygiene. And we sort of started to touch on it through other skills like washing or having the washer not work or not doing the housekeeping. But now I'm like, it's just straight hygiene.
Right. So what we have there is like I think I'm fine, but I'm not taking a bath. I'm not cleaning myself. I'm not checking my teeth. I'm not. So now I have oral problems. I'm not actually changing my clothing. I'm not, and so hygiene starts to be an issue because what happens to social then when I'm having trouble with hygiene? Now people might start to notice, but still, if I think I'm fine, trying to get me assistance when I think I'm fine, if we've let it go this far, because we were starting with early care issues, we got a challenge. We definitely have a challenge. So we're talking about our theme for tonight is living on your own. And it can go super well if you have self awareness and you have the right resources. We're going to meet someone and her helper in a short window of time here. We're going to talk to Creaky, who's one of our really good friends who's living with dementia and has lived on her own for a long time and supported her dad as well with his dementia, right? Rachel, was it her dad? Am I remembering right? Yeah, with his dementia, even though she was living with her dementia. And the good news about Creaky is she has self-awareness, incredible self-awareness because of that. And she's also learned a lot of skills. She's worked with us, trained with us, learned with us, and we've learned with her. And so living on her own is part of who she is. And if she gets to a place where she's going to need more help of physical assistance, that's where it's going to be tough for her to do that because she is so committed to what she believes is right for her. And she's very self-aware. So who am I to say she's wrong, I'm right? And that's difficult because we would see all kinds of risk and danger there, but she actually does incredibly well. On the other hand, I work with folks for sure who, because they so want to stay independent, they hide problems, even though they know they're having them because they're afraid people will come in and take over. And so what they do is they continue to run into trouble and have risk and danger for themselves and their well-being and their finances and their home. But they know they're doing it. They do know. But the problem is I don't want to give up my independence. And so I'm willing to take that level of risk until it becomes overtly dangerous for someone else or the animals I care for. I can know I'm not good at keeping up with things, and I keep overfeeding and overfeeding or underfeeding. And my animals are now at risk because, yes, I know I need help, but I don't want help. I want to stay where I'm at. And so this becomes a really challenging phenomena that we have to deal with, but this doesn't happen for everyone. And sometimes with just minimal amounts or different kinds of support. In the final section, when we're not taking some questions for challenging situations, I'm going to share a relatively short clip from one of our friends from Australia, because she lives alone, but the way she compensates is not with humans. She uses a lot of tech. So I want folks to hear from Bobby, who's a different person living with dementia, and she has incredible skill at figuring out how to use tech. So we're going to take a little pause and we're going to switch gears and we're going to listen to an interview that Rachel did with Creaky. Rachel, do you want to set us up a little bit about this situation?
Yes. So Creaky is the person living with dementia, living alone. And she has a team of 3 people, which she'll talk about. And she invited one of her friends to come and join the conversation. So this is pretty neat because you get to see both perspectives and you get to see them actually talk and think through things together. So this is a real treat and I'm excited for you guys to get to see this. We're really excited to see Creaky, as always. And Mary, a special welcome to you as well. So Creaky, you're living with dementia, right?
Yes. Yeah, I was diagnosed in 2018, I believe. Initially with Alzheimer's, they did an MRI, which showed no plaques or tangles a year later. So they changed it to unspecified symptoms of dementia. And then I had another evaluation, and it was changed to mild neurodegenerative disorder with probable dementia. So brain change.
So something's not right.
Brain change, yeah.
And you're trying to figure out how to live with this, right?
Exactly. Live well, yes. I started this, Katie is my backup brain, Katie Hernandez, and she is my backup brain. She's a social worker. I did not know that I've been with her for over 5 years now. And she comes, I like to say I'm living independently, and I am, but I would not be able to do that without her help and Mary. And, I still drive. And so Mary rides with me to make sure that I'm not lying to myself, that I'm doing so well, because we all know that things change. And so Katie comes once a week, once every other week to help me with my meds. I can do them, but I like a second set of eyes to do them with me. And appointments, if I have to make them, banking. I recently had Mary and Katie on my checking account. So now that they are in, full cohorts with me, so there's no doubt on how to take care of finances and stuff. Makes me feel less dependent just by having somebody to help me, do with me, not for me, not till I can no longer be for myself. Kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You also have a phone. I know that's not exactly a person, but it does seem to have an important part to play.
My phone?
Yeah, your phone.
Yes. My main issues with my dementia is the executive function, planning, initiating, sequencing, terminating. Nice little acronym there. Those kind of things I don't do well, and everything is auto pay with my bank. But Samsung Notes is it's just a literal, ridiculously, painfully, I mean, having to type in everything. But that's what works for me right now. I'm needing to make some changes, but what works for me is to see it, have an alarm go off to remind me to go walk the dog or that kind of a thing. Because without that alarm, in addition to my list, my brain doesn't remember.
So that helps you guide you through your day then.
Yeah, yeah.
She'll be playing the piano all day long.
Yes.
So Mary, would you be willing to share a little bit about what you've learned as far as supporting Creaky and coming alongside her?
Sure. Just that sometimes it's very frustrating for her to have the two conversations going at once, and to me and my partners tend to talk to her at the same time, ask her a lot of questions. We've always done that, but we have to change a little bit in order to not overwhelm her.
So did you want to talk a little bit about independence?
Yeah, I think the independent. I've lived by myself literally all my life as an adult, and in the 20s. I lived with somebody for a couple of years in the 70s or whatever. I call myself a social loner because I've been sober for 36 years, and so I do go to meetings. I do wear earplugs now, and I'm able to go to meetings and not be distracted, which is important for me because I know I need to remain social. But I lost my train of thought.
Well, she talked about independence.
Oh, the independence. Yeah. So my biggest concern to be able to live alone safely. That is my main deal. And so in order to do that, I need somebody to ride with me every once in a while, to ask me questions, and am I doing my medications? I've got tons of medication, like for myself, for both of my elderly dogs, and everything is visual, little hospital cups, and so far that's working so far, but I need to be accountable for those kind of things. I don't want to be hiding anything. But independence is, I don't want to be around if I'm not able to live alone, because me and my piano and my dogs, that's kind of where I am. So that's where we go. I am planning on doing what's called VSED, voluntarily stopping eating and drinking, and we actually, I'm still adamant about that. I'm planning on an early exit. I do not want to live in the late stages and it's just process, right now, when do I want to start this? When I can no longer play the piano or appreciate hearing my music in a way that calms me. Number 2, when I no longer know or respond to family or friends. Or number 3, my relationships with my loved ones begin to suffer irrevocably. Or number 4, I can no longer live safely at home. So it's not a date that's set. I'm hoping to go traveling, I mean, so it's nothing it's just something that I'm needing to plan for, because I know eventually I won't be able to plan for anything. And it's very, very important for me not to go into a nursing home, those kind of things.
So you mentioned safety a couple times. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Staying safe means waking up and making sure I'm not hiding things from my peeps, from my team, to stay independent. You know, that's the biggest thing for me, is to be completely open and honest.
So Mary, I'm kind of curious, when you guys notice something, how do you bring that up? Because it seems like that could be a real touchy, kind
Very
of tricky
touchy.
thing to bring up.
I think that if we stick to the facts and tell her like this happened, you know, and this is what I believe that you are getting to that point. I don't know if I want to say you're there, you know, because that might be too harsh.
Well, and let me step in on that.
Mhm.
I think that's great, because again, my whole premise of living with my declining cognition and other things is losing my independence, losing my autonomy, which is another reason why I get upset, because it's like I'm still in control, you know, that kind of a thing. But to allow me to hear that when you say, you know, this is what I'm looking at, and then for me, if I'm still self-aware, to say, okay, is there a workaround for this? Is there something I can do to make it where it is okay with all of us? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know what that would be.
Yeah. But as far as you seeing something and telling me, and making sure that I'm timed out and breathing, so I can accept what you're saying, and then present whatever it might be, you know. So what I hear you saying is this. I'm thinking, what if I do this and see how it works?
Yeah, having options and to make decisions,
And then
so you wouldn't
all-around
feel
decisions.
like powerless.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. And for everyone
I'm
to
with you.
agree, the whole team, not just me, and not being a bully, or hearing one person say something and me thinking they're just saying, you know. But yeah. So I agree with the team thing, and I'm so 1000% comfortable with Mary and Katie, and also I have a death doula, and so anyway, I'm just comfortable with everybody.
She hasn't been able to get it going, so I said, just leave it to me. I'll write it up, you know, and she won't. She doesn't let me. I decided to let go of some things because I was being a little forceful and trying to get her to do her VSET and stuff like that. So I kind of took a step back because it was getting too frustrating for both of us. Yeah, so. And I've interviewed people before, and I can get the questions and answers and write it out for her, and it'll be done. But she will not. She doesn't want that, so we have to do it another way.
Well,
It's hard.
Let me time out there, because and I hear what you're saying, that, and I remember being in your living room, and you've spent, I don't know how long, and I have it right here, of what to say and all that kind of stuff. What was I going to say? The decline that I have right now takes away my thought processes, and so if somebody's talking and she talks perfectly, uh, I just couldn't take all the information in, and then my head is going 90 miles an hour. Well, how can I don't want to control. Yeah, all right, control. Yeah, control.
But she's right. I need to let you be a part of that process. Probably, but it's been a year,
Almost a year.
and it's something I could knock out in a day.
Creaky, we just have proof of what a good friend does. She got the message. She backed off. She listened to you. Kudos to Mary and Creaky.
Thank you.
So Creaky, I'm picking up like what Mary was saying, that including you in the conversation seems like that's a real key for you, of not just deciding for you and not being, we decided that we all ganged up on you, but really
Right.
having that conversation, and giving you the opportunity to come back and say, what about this? Would this be acceptable? Can we try this? Or, okay, that's it. I get it. This is the decision I'm making.
And we have to be okay, because I know her and she's very hard-headed, and I just don't see her letting go of that independence. Not at all. So
that's what the VSET is about, is if I can't let go of that independent, then that's when I start VSET. Right?
I don't know. That's a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, if I can't live alone, then I don't want to be living.
Thank you so much for being willing to do this, Creaky. I know that you don't particularly like doing Zoom, so the fact that you did that says a lot. And then on top of that, you went and found Mary and got that all to work. So Mary, thank you for coming, but more importantly, thank you for being the friend that you are.
Yes,
and
I'm
to
so
the other
blessed.
Mary and to Katie for being the team that Creaky needs, and Creaky for doing that and pulling the team together.
I would not have independence without all of them as a team. I would not. I guarantee you. And so I'm very, very grateful. Blessed beyond measure.
All of you together allows
All
you
of
to
us
do what you're
together.
doing.
Yeah.
So, wow. Remarkable woman. So when we were going to do this segment, right away, Rachel, who did I say we needed to get on?
I think Creaky came to both of our minds.
Yeah. It was like, we got to talk to Creaky. And we need to talk to Creaky because Creaky is so masterful at how she takes what we believe and lives her life according to her creed. And she is absolutely solid on this. And you saw how hard it can be to truly be in support of a friend who's living with brain change. And you could help them so much easier if they would just let you take this over. And yet, when Creaky says no, Mary goes. Now, it's not that Mary doesn't feel something. She does. It's super hard to not want to help when you know you can help, but your help isn't wanted. And if you push forward and do it, it isn't actually care or help. It's abusing a relationship. So that whole idea, but she's also not neglecting. Is Creaky neglecting her responsibilities for driving as an adult living with some brain change? What do y'all think?
No, it's so separate from the conversation of where the last part of that recording ended. So she's put in place earlier on. It sounds like when she had much greater self-awareness to identify those things that would affect others versus those things that would affect truly only her. Now, not putting aside the grief that those of us who just really admire Creaky, but when it comes to that right to choose the way that your end of life looks like, that's powerful. And that really is such a personal choice. It's not like driving. Driving does affect me, but it affects so many other people as well. And I appreciated that difference that she's put in place that it doesn't mean she loses all other choices then if someone says, okay, I got to call this one.
Yeah.
And in such a supportive way. Wow.
Yeah. And so the ability, and Creaky is really clear that it's her choice to stop eating. So it's a voluntary program where you just quit eating and drinking. And when you don't eat and drink, your system uses up everything you have in storage, and then you don't keep living because there's nothing left in storage. And so with her ability to do the things she's done in her life, she said she's been sober for 36 years. Going from having a problem with alcohol use, drug use, and then going sober, and that's it, and not coming off of that is a really tough decision to make. And it's hard to hold to that. You have to really change. And you have to change your life. You have to change your lifestyle. You have to change a lot of friends. You have to make decisions that are very, and she's been able to do that. So, whereas many people I have found believe that they will want to stop eating and drinking when that moment comes where they are losing some skills and they said, I will quit eating and drinking. They don't, because they still enjoy eating and drinking. And so, because it is voluntary, I could say, you had said when you got to this point, you wanted to quit. I do, but I'm still hungry, so give me dinner. Okay. Because you're in control. But it's going to be super hard for people. And there will be a time when Creaky is stopping this process potentially, where her capacity to be able to communicate is going to be impaired, because that's part of what's going to happen. And so continuing to honor that could be quite difficult, but I think she's picked good friends. And she's brought them through her life with her. And so she knows us, and she knows sort of our pattern of we try to be really respectful for what people really believe, and we'll work with them, and we'll try to explore and explain and figure out, is there another workaround? I mean, I'm with Creaky. Is there a workaround? Let's see if we can get a workaround. Can we figure this out? Is there another option? What if we're listening, but we're not looking? Is that still considered independent? I don't know. We'll have to find out. It's like, so I'm looking to see whether or not you've fallen, or I'm listening to see whether or not you've fallen. If I know you've fallen and I can come help you get back up, is that okay? Can we put in a system where I can hear whether or not you're moving around, or is that not okay? But we have open conversations. This isn't something we're sneaking around and doing. The tricky part is when people don't have awareness of their changes, that we run into this difficulty. And okay, team, about what % of people have anosognosia as a primary symptom? Yeah, about 50%. Approximately 50% of people living with dementia have anosognosia as an early symptom and continue to have anosognosia. The other 50%, they have awareness, but again, it divides. So we have around, let me see if I can get my fingers. I'm trying to look at my fingers. That's always a bad idea. About 30% of people who have anosognosia truly, they truly do. 30% have awareness, and they will seek assistance and guidance. They know they need help. They get help. They go for help. 20%, unfortunately, do know that they're having trouble, and they will hide it, because the same thing Creaky craves, they crave. They crave independence. The challenge is they don't have awareness that independence is no longer, they're putting others at risk. They're putting themselves at risk. They're putting animals at risk. They're putting their home at risk. They don't have a good judgment call. And our healthcare system simply doesn't know what to do about this. Our legal system doesn't know exactly what to do about this. Our social system doesn't know quite what to do about this. And therefore, we have APS that doesn't know what to do. We have hospitals that don't know what to do. We have lawyers and judges who aren't sure what to do. We have families who don't know what to do. And we don't have a strong game plan, because until I said that word, how many people out there even knew what it meant? because we just associate it with dementia. And yet only half of people developing dementia actually have it. Anosognosia. And so we make assumptions about everyone rather than doing a careful assessment with an individual. So what we're going to do now in our last segment is we're going to talk about a challenging situation, and a challenging situation that someone brought to us. Now, this is not about living independently. It's actually about supporting someone and what you're allowed to do when you support someone in a residential facility, but you're not part of the residential facility. So we have someone who is identified as needing support in this scenario. And there is a helper who has been hired to provide support. Only it's a private helper. And there is in a residential setting where there are other helpers helping individuals, and there are other residents present. So here's the situation. So I'll read it out so I get it accurate. So this is the situation. Let's see. I'm doing some private work. I'm a private caregiver for someone in a facility. The facility will tell the family they need higher degree of private care. So the family hires her to do it. The problem she sees happening a lot is that staff and management will tell the private care provider not to sit with the person they're hired to care for. And the reason they give is that they feel that the presence of the helper is taking away independence. And the person says, I can promise you, I'm really careful doing things with the person, not to the person or for the person. I have even had clients that are able to make their own choice. And I'll say, would you rather have lunch with your friends and I'll wait for you over here? And if you need anything, just let me know. Or would you like me to sit with you? Okay. Other examples are things like going to the bathroom to assist when the person's a fall risk and they're unable to figure out what comes next in a sequence of going to the bathroom. And yet they indicate that the private helper shouldn't go with that individual. Or at a lunch, if they're sitting on their own, the person who they're supporting is sitting on their own and they're starting to put their food in their drink and they won't eat the food. They're just sitting there. But if you sit next to them and you're eating alongside them and you gently prompt, here you go, here's a napkin, or here you go, here's this. Oh, try this. Then they will eat and they do eat. So she's wondering why it is that facilities tell the person that they need extra help, the family that they need extra help, but then just have them sit and not do something and watch. So I'm going to ask my team, what do you think about all that?
I gotta say, I'll be totally honest. I usually hear the opposite. Facility tells somebody that they want one-on-one staff and that the family needs to hire this higher level of care, and then the rest of the staff is more likely to just be like, well, okay, well, they got one-to-one, so I don't need to do anything. I can actually.
Okay, so Beth, I'm going to pause because actually the staff is sort of doing that.
Yeah, but in a different way.
Yeah.
I'm really curious if Cheryl has seen this, being a hands-on day-to-day care partner as a PSW, or as we call it in the States, an aide in residential care.
So I actually was one of those people that were hired to go in to support somebody. And I did not have that situation. I honestly they did not even come in to see the other person because I was there. But I joined in on activities with her. I was the one, like, it was just, they shared the calendar, and I don't know. I did not have that. And
okay, so this seems to be a residence by residence, like a place by place phenomena. And what Beth and I have experienced, and Cheryl, you may or may not have, I've experienced a variety of things. I have experienced a facility saying your person is a fall risk or your person is having a hard time staying engaged in things that we're doing. We need you to get a one-on-one because they're a fall risk, because they keep leaving, because they're going into other people's rooms. We need more support for that individual. And so the family brings in this individual. Now, I have seen that in some places, well, you can be with them, but you can't take them to the bathroom. I mean, I have seen that. And the problem with that, as the person who's the private helper, if I notice my person needs to go to the bathroom, I have a choice. I can leave them and go find the helper, who may be in 10 rooms. I got to go do that. Or I keep bringing my person with them and then they have an incontinence episode because they really do need to go to the bathroom. Or I go ahead and take them to the bathroom because what I'm really doing is not so much even physically helping them. I'm cueing them step by step, which isn't a task that requires hands-on skill. It actually requires verbal skills with touching your own self to say, okay, so go ahead and unbutton. Excellent. Okay, now push your pants down. Great. And then there's the rail. Good, good. Hold on and sit down. Now, there you go. Okay, now you can go ahead and go. I'll be right out here. So this idea of limiting what the private person can do so that the person gets to be social with others, it's a very, very odd way, I think, of making use of the resource that you required the family to bring on. Added to which it doesn't seem to serve the individual well in the situations, particularly where in this one case, what was happening is the person is putting food in their drink and drinking their food and not eating.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not okay.
The descriptions that the person gave showed such amazing skill that, so my first place, when I hear one person's story, my brain tends to say, okay, so if there's a complaint about X or a complaint about this group, there's always two sides of the story. I'm always a little curious to say, is that an accurate assessment of the actual situation, right? The clues that I have that make me think it is how the person was describing their involvement with the person, what they would simply want to do to support independence. It wasn't about, I need to be with my person because they hired me and that's my job and she is my responsibility and you can't make me. There wasn't that sort of thing that was congruent with someone taking over. It was more of, now, it could be like these words were perfect and the reality on the ground was very different. I wasn't, if I had to bet my car, I would bet on the person's description.
Yeah. And so I have some really relevant questions to ask the facility leadership about, help me understand why you asked for this assistance if you're going to then have them just sit. Help me understand why and when this assistance is needed and why the helpers that are present on the unit can't provide it.
What regulations might you
What regulations are you citing?
From the
What
state?
concern do you, what legal issues are there? And I would have questions for family. So as you're doing this, I'm incredibly curious. How do you feel about having to pay for this and having the person sit over there while your person has food in their drink? So, it's just a question. Yeah. So we don't have a really great answer. We think it's worth going and asking some questions. We believe asking questions of administration about guidelines and rules and regulations and why they're asking for help, but then wanting the person to be separated from the individual. What exactly is it they wanted that for? And maybe talking with the family and let's get really clear about when and how much and in what situations help is being requested, this extra private duty. Because I could see somebody with skill being incredibly frustrated with not being asked to use the skill they have to engage the person with their partners, other people at the table, offering some support to more than just that individual by being friendly. Because I certainly tend to go into situations like that.
I think, Teepa, The key thing you said there was getting curious and being willing to ask those questions. The hardest part, I think, with having an agenda that seems like it's right. And I mean, just to reflect the person, the way that this question was written, it really does seem like those are worthy questions.
Yeah.
The part that's interesting to me is how it is I get myself into a place where I can truly be curious about the people that I'm already kind of feeling like this against.
Yeah.
And that's going to make it extra hard to be that curious. So I think that's the place where if I can get some support, I may be going, am I too involved emotionally? Might I need to have somebody else ask these questions? Because I can be curious for a second, but I'm like, but and then I lose my curiosity and I lose my edge to have a true discourse to figure out what is the best path forward to supporting my person and supporting the facility.
Cool. Yeah. So it's definitely worth a further explore. So we're going to end our session with, I'm going to give you a little bit of Bobby Redmond's share out, because we were asking her about living alone in Australia. And she is someone who fits into the aged care, not the young person onset by, I think it was 6 months or something. And what she's opted for is a little bit different. So Matthew, if you could play us a little bit of Bobby's, and I'll pause you because we won't get a chance to watch it all. But I want you to hear what Bobby, another of our friends, had to say about living independently.
Yeah, I'm big on technology, and I say that my phone is my carer. My house is set up with technology.
Okay.
I use my phone for minute by minute prompts on what I need to do during the day. So it's, people set their alarm in the mornings to get out of bed. My alarm tells me to get out of bed, go to the bathroom, go to the step. I can't remember the steps, but my phone knows. And
Did you program it, or did you have it programmed?
I programmed it when I was better.
Okay.
Now I just have to change times. I have the sequence, but if I have to get up earlier or early for an appointment or whatever, I can adjust the times.
Okay.
And I have an alarm to remind me to set my morning alarms at night. And then I have an alarm later in the day that I fit in after my first early sessions if there's changes for the afternoon. So my phone reminds me to reset it.
Do you ever find yourself getting angry with it? Give me a minute. I'm working on it. I mean, do you ever talk to it or not?
I do talk to it, but it talks to me. You see, I found out that rather than having silly sounds coming out of it, that it would go off and I'd forget. I recorded myself messages, and so it plays my voice to me, telling me what I have to do, which I find much more useful. What happens is if it's a short recording, it repeats itself. So then it's kind of, okay, 5 minutes to go for your meeting. It's 5 minutes to go for your meeting. I say, oh, shut up, I know.
So we'll pause there, because what I wanted you to hear is how skillful Bobby is at this moment in her dementia with her awareness. And she said, I did it when I was more capable. I did the main programming, and now I have to just go in and do it. She also is aware things are going to change. And so she has a technician that she has come in once a month that verifies she's still on target with it. And if she wants to make some changes on it, the technician is geared up to help her make changes. Because she knows that now she doesn't have the ability to do all the programming she needs to do. So she needs a second brain, as our friend Krika calls it, a backup brain. She needs a backup brain to help her do these things that she will need to do in order to maintain her independence. Bobby's plan, as she becomes less able to do it, she's in one of the appointments she was talking about having is going to visit aged care homes to see which ones she might be able to tolerate being in and which ones she would not. while she has the time, she wants to do some planning ahead of knowing that at some point, technology will no longer be enough for me and I will need something. And so she was looking at what her options might be. And because she lives alone, she has to make those arrangements to go do those things. And she uses some support, but that's part of her getting ready for the next step of her journey. And she's aware of it. And she also, if you watch more of the interview, says, and I know I'm going to try to cheat when the time comes. And I don't know of any of us that wouldn't. So kudos to Rachel and to Creaky and to Mary for doing our middle segment. Thank you all for joining us. If you have questions, as our friend had questions, Darlene did, about a certain situation, a challenging or curious phenomena, let us know. We'll be back with you again next month to explore what happens when you have brain changes and what are some alternatives to just giving up, because we believe there's life to be lived after a diagnosis, especially when they keep changing your diagnosis, and how you live your life matters. So getting the right support, and there is support for someone with anosognosia. It's just a lot trickier and more difficult. The most challenging situation is figuring out what to do when people are hiding what they know is happening because they're afraid. And it takes some special skill to work with someone who's afraid of loss, aware of loss, but still wanting to maintain independence. Maybe some master skills. Till next time, take care with your care. Take care of yourself. Thank you, everybody.